Blood manipulation and the potential of Yuji having access to this curse technique has been heavily discussed among the fandom ever since it was implied a while back that Yuji devoured his brothers and consumed them. Ever since that point on, several people in the fandom have been debating whether Yuji has access to blood manipulation or not, and as JJK has continued, more and more proof have been added on to the fact that Yuji does have blood manipulation. However, I would like to use this video today to explain without a doubt why Yuji has blood manipulation and why it even makes sense to begin with and how it affects everything. I'm Eternal Flame and let's get straight into the video. Now, the most common argument I hear against Yuji having blood manipulation is the fact that him consuming his brothers should not have just given him blood manipulation, because everybody used the data book statement where it says that if Yuji were to consume the death paintings, he would more than likely just gain access to their cursed energy as a cursed energy buff. However, people do forget about something else about this databook statement, which is the fact that's only half of the statement, as the full statement is either the death painting womb will become something like Sukuna's current state, or the death painting womb itself will disappear and become cursed energy within Itadori. And while Gege does seem to leave it up to mystery and interpretation, he actually makes an implication that it is the former and not the latter of the statement and which one it would happen, because of something else that's added in. If Itadori ingests it after he is already a host for Sukuna, the death painting will just be obliterated by Sukuna. What this implies to me is that the death painting will likely stay around for a little bit and will not immediately be converted into cursed energy, or else Sukuna would not get the chance to destroy it if it was immediately converted into cursed energy and absorbed by Yuji Itadori. So basically, this at least implies to me that the death painting will exist just for a little bit inside of Yuji's body, rather than immediately being converted into cursed energy, if they even get converted to cursed energy at all. Now, in order to prove why Yuji does have blood manipulation, I do need to establish this. Blood manipulation is not Yuji's innate technique. If Yuji has an innate technique and just hasn't been awakened yet or not, we have no idea yet, but I do need to say Yuji's technique for blood manipulation is something he got from being the vessel of all of his brothers. And let me just explain why this works by going over how vessels function within JJK. In JJK, there are basically 3 types of vessels, which I like to call cages, non-symbiotic vessels, and symbiotic vessels. For cages, think of Yuji and Sukuna's relationship, where Yuji has his soul constantly working to suppress Sukuna. In some ways, this also could potentially nerf Yuji's soul, because we know a part of it does have to always be there to suppress Sukuna, which is where I've speculated the power-up in Chapter 214 came from Yuji having access to the full power of his soul. But even if you don't believe that, it still ends up with the person not getting any help at all from the creature that they are being a vessel of, as Yuji's directly stated in the past that he had no help at all from Sukuna. In fact, it allows them to, whenever the other person is in control of them, suppress their soul and weaken them, as shown with Megumi and Sukuna, where whenever Meguna was about to attack Yuji or Maki, his output was lowered to below 10%. Up next are non-symbiotic vessels. Non-symbiotic vessels are basically the ones we see much more commonly throughout all of JJK. This is basically every single Calling Games player, well other than one which I'm going to get to in a second. Choso. All of the other death paintings that we have seen awaken up to this point, and most of all Sukuna and Megumi in their current state right now, where one of the 2 souls in that body are fully 100% suppressed, allowing the other person to have full control over that body. It allows them to do things like fully shapeshift their body back to the original state that it was before they were transformed into a vessel, as well as gain access to the curse technique of the vessel themselves. But I don't think Yuji is a non-symbiotic vessel. This is where we're going to get into a symbiotic vessel. Remember how I said there was one Calling Games player who doesn't fit the bill of being a non-symbiotic vessel? That is the bond between Hana Kuresu and the angel themselves, where since they are symbiotic vessels, they are able to speak freely with each other, assist each other, with the angel being able to create the mouth in order to talk to other people, and Hana still being able to use the angel's curse technique, even though the angel is not the one in active control of the body. And most of all, directly stated by Sukuna, it allows them to recover much faster because they are helping each other to recover. Basically, they are able to share cursed energies with each other, share each other's techniques, as well as share the ability to help recover faster from attacks in order to heal faster, living symbiotically with each other. And this is how I think Yuji as a vessel for his brothers is functioning, that all of his brothers are currently living on inside of him and giving Yuji the access to use the blood manipulation technique, while Yuji's cursed energy, as well as while the brothers' cursed energy is also flowing into each of the techniques that are used in order to give it more potency and more power. I think this is the case because of the specific wording that Choso used, where he said, "So long as my brothers live on for you, it's fine." Stack that with the fact that Kamo Noritoshi was the one who helped Yuji in order to teach him something that Choso was not good at teaching him, which the only thing that Kamo and Choso both really know is like blood manipulation, so let's be honest, it was probably blood manipulation that Yuji was learning from the two of them, and it all makes sense on why Yuji is a proficient user of blood manipulation and knows how to use it. Now, in the most recent chapter, we see a piercing blood be fired off directly against Sukuna, and Sukuna blocking it with one hand. Now, there has been a lot of debate on whether this piercing blood came directly from Choso or came from Yuji. Now, initially at the time of reading it, I believed it was actually Choso who was using the blood manipulation due to Sukuna's internal statement, "That is the older brother. The death painting's so stubborn." Now, at first, that statement just heavily implied to me that it was likely Choso who fired off the piercing blood. However, when I reread it, a different interpretation came to me that likely makes a bit more sense, especially considering several other things that I'm about to talk about, which is the fact that Sukuna says that is the older brother, the death painting, and then he says "so stubborn" after there are 3 dots after that statement, which I interpret that as 2 separate thoughts, as Sukuna more than likely thinking that was originally Choso, but then when he said "so stubborn," he believed that was Yuji. This is due to the fact that Yuji basically had a hole cleaved in him. That, and also Yuji's been the only person to actually show up so far in this encounter, which means Yuji is more than likely the closest person there, so it would have made a lot of sense if Yuji, on the way there in order to assist Higuruma, actually fired a piercing blood midway in order to try and support Higuruma in the process. So basically, that is my entire opinion on why I believe Yuji has blood manipulation and how it functions. That Yuji gained access to blood manipulation due to having a symbiotic vessel-like bond with his brothers, as well as the fact that both Kamo and Choso were attempting to teach Yuji something that Yuji went to Kamo instead of Choso, because Choso is bad at teaching. All makes sense, at least to me, for why Yuji more than likely has access to blood manipulation. Now, this could mean a lot for the narrative. My friend named Kyle Breeze has an entire video going over the potential curse techniques that he could have gained through all of his brothers in the process, and I'm going to leave a link to that right about now. I really recommend you check that out. But I also want to talk about what I think this could mean. This gives Yuji access to likely every single application for curse techniques that we see from Kamo Noritoshi, which is piercing blood, slicing exorcism, and most of all, flowing red scale. Which flowing red scale is the one in particular that I think is going to be the most useful, especially if Yuji ends up to start using that now, because I don't think Yuji is using flowing red scale right now because of the entire it has a mark on your face, so it's very noticeable when you're using flowing red scale. So using flowing red scale would amplify Yuji's physical stats even more to an even more insane degree, as well as allow him to control his own body temperature. Furthermore, this gives Yuji the potential way of accessing a domain expansion that could happen in the future, which I don't think Yuji has access to right now, as well as a maximum technique, which both are things that could easily end up happening if Yuji ends up being pushed hard enough in order to awaken both of these things. I don't see it happening right now, but it could definitely happen later on in the fight, depending on how Sukuna pushes him. Furthermore, it should also allow Yuji to recover much faster, which might explain how he is able to still be in the fight, even if he doesn't have RCT, which I do think Yuji does have access to some healing factor. RCT wouldn't exactly be a surprise to me, but if they use him being a symbiotic vessel to explain it, that would make a lot of sense too, especially with it being established that something being a symbiotic vessel gives you by Sukuna directly, so it wouldn't really be a surprise if that was how Yuji was able to heal so fast. Furthermore, this is also a massive amp to his cursed energy as a whole. So yeah, overall, this is a very, very big power-up. Now, I don't think it's enough to be able to beat Sukuna in a 1v1, obviously, or else Yuji would be doing so right now. But it's still a massive, massive power-up that can't be undersold of how good of a power-up having blood manipulation as a curse technique is for Yuji directly. However, this video is basically made just so I can throw my hat into the ring of why I think Yuji does have access to blood manipulation, why it makes sense within the narrative, etc. But I want to know another thing. Do you guys think that blood manipulation and giving it to Yuji was a mistake, or do you guys actually like that Yuji has access to blood manipulation? Let's get this discussion in the comment section down below. And also, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe. Your subscription would be nice, but it's up to you completely, and you can undo it whenever you want. I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace out. Have a good day. Oh, and if you made it to the end of the video, this is going to be the last video I make this year, which, I mean, is pretty obvious. It is January 31st, and I really want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for being here for this journey. You all have been great. I love all of you. You all are amazing. Thank you. Like, even taking the time out of your day to watch my content is, like, really supporting to me. I hope you all have a great new year and a great day. I'm going to see y'all later. Peace out.